Distraction has become the biggest barrier to me, to my creativity, but also to my connection to myself. And the way I've noticed this is actually through my intolerance to boredom. When I think back to before I engaged in a lot of social media, there was this natural balance of moments where you were engaged with your mind and where you were consuming things. And there were also a lot of moments where you had to just be bored because there was nothing to fill that space with. There was nothing to consume. And that actually gave space for my creativity to emerge. It gave space for thoughts and inspirations and things to just mull over inside of me to develop and emerge in their own natural way into my expression of creativity. I've noticed now that you have to be really deliberate about choosing those moments now. It's almost like there is so much distraction available at our fingertips through our phones. There's infinite amounts of things to consume that are highly stimulating and entertaining and engaging, that it's actually become really difficult to have a natural balance now of those spaces where we're not consuming. And when I think of those moments for me, it's when I go for a walk. For a long time, I just listened to a podcast. When I was in my car, I would listen to a podcast. In between those waiting lines or those brief moments, it's just so easy to reach out to the phone and to look at the news or to look at a social media feed. And it's almost made it impossible now to be required to feel boredom because everything is so readily available. Not only that, there's just a culture now where we almost don't promote any sense of having space or having a pause when it comes to consuming. And what I've noticed in terms of the impact for me on that is my natural connection to that creative instinct has dampened a little bit for me. It's become a bit numb if I don't actively cultivate it. And what that means for me now is I have to actually have an active practice now where I'm creating space, where I'm choosing moments where actually I'm just going to let myself be bored, not have anything to consume, not have any agenda of trying to learn something or anything like that. And unless I make this a practice that is regular and daily, it's really difficult for me to maintain that connection to my creativity and actually to my natural intuitive instinct about other things as well. And this is something that creeps in because it's like this habit, right? When we keep consuming, to me, I feel like it's similar to our diet. If we just eat fast food all the time, it's it has a lot of taste. It has a lot of dopamine, and it's this thing that you just want to keep eating it, but it never actually satiates us. It never nourishes us. And if we get into a reliant habit of needing that, obviously it leads to a very unhealthy body. And what I've realized is this is the same with content. There's content that is just very stimulating. It's very polarizing. It hijacks the brain circuits. It triggers off these different types of endorphins and cortisol and all the different chemicals in our body. And it actually just ends up being this thing where we are hijacked by the things that we're consuming and we can't connect back down to ourselves. And over time, stillness becomes harder to cultivate because when we sit down to let stillness be there, there's this aversion to boredom that we have to get through. And if we have been avoiding that for some time, usually there's some uncomfortable feelings that we have to sit with because we've been avoiding those as well. And this has been something that I've realized now, unless I do this every day, then that consumption of those dopamine the non-satiating things will take over. And for a long time, I thought that I could consciously actually just naturally have the balance without putting too much effort into this. But I've actually recognized now that this has to be a practice for me. And so I've actually started going for walks now without listening to podcasts, and started to do things like when I'm in between something, I don't have anything to do, actually just letting myself be still. And it's amazing how strange that feels after not having to do that. Sometimes it feels a bit odd when you are so used to reaching for the phone in a particular moment, and then in that moment of stillness, it actually feels unnatural. But then after a while, there's this deeper relationship with ourselves that emerges again. And I've started doing a daily practice of just writing for me, where I don't have an agenda of, I'm trying to write a full song or anything like that. It's just letting creative impressions emerge from me. And I'm finding that it's actually something that after regular practice with it and regularly engaging with it, it's something that never has dampened within us. It's just that we've numbed ourselves to it a little bit. And this has been my practice that I've been focusing on lately. And the other thing is being really conscious about the content that I'm consuming. What is my diet of what I'm putting into my mind? And I've actually started looking at it in a similar way to how I do look at the food I put in my body. And what I realized after looking at that more consciously is that the vast majority of stuff online is actually stimulating us in a way that is not healthy for our mind or our hearts. And it's actually quite shocking when you recognize that. And when there's a conscious choice to step away from some of those things that I was habitually using in the past just to fill my moments of boredom. And so these are just a few thoughts for me that I'm consciously engaging with at the moment. I think mindful consumption is something that I've recognized that is really important, and welcoming boredom back into my life, welcoming the natural cadence of being engaged and then just being open and letting the natural stillness and openness bring to me whatever those things are uniquely for me in those moments, rather than filling them up with a constant barrage of other things. And when I do consume, like I love listening to music, I let myself receive that inspiration and enjoy listening to it, but without letting my mind jump into this projection of how I need to somehow adapt myself in order to achieve something that I've appreciated in that piece of art. This is also something that I have a tendency in my mind to do when it's hijacked by that external referencing all the time. And yeah, just enjoying the creative process. I've realized now now that I'm getting back into this is actually what I loved in the first place. When I started making music, there was no end outcome with it. It was purely the enjoyment of sitting down and figuring things out, and that endless journey of discovery, which was that was the reason why I started music and developed a great love for it. And that's what I'm getting more in touch with now, when I'm stepping away from a constant exposure to just filling that with other things. And yeah, so those are my thoughts for today. I hope some of that was useful for you, and I will catch you again soon.